I've never been a fan of the job search market, specifically the unwritten rules of who is qualified and who isn't. Corporate America likes to see a linear job progression without gaps. This means your resume should show consistent employment year after year, having an upward progression at the companies you worked at, with your skill sets honed and refined in specific categories. Also, the brand identity of the companies you worked at and the school you attended favors you among the pool of applicants. This weeding out of applicants usually occurs when applied online, where your resume is rarely ever seen by human eyes. Basically, it's an algorithm that's deciding if you're a worthy candidate. In other words, if you didn't go to an Ivy League or work at a Fortune 50 company, and if you took a year off for whatever reason, or you're an entrepreneur trying to get back into the job market, or you have worn many hats in previous roles, and so you don't fit a specific niche, then you're not triggered as the ideal candidate. Now, I faced this firsthand, believe it or not. I identify as an entrepreneur and always will. But 11 years ago, I went to get my MBA. I just left an entrepreneurial endeavor and decided to try my hands in corporate America. I chose to pursue management consulting because of my diversified experience. I realized real quickly that my entrepreneurial resume was not equally received as the traditional career progression resume. Companies wanted to see brand names on my resume, not a bunch of businesses with LLC next to it. So that was strike one. Then I realized my resume was too generalized. In other words, I can do a lot of things, but I wasn't showing that I specialize in one specific area. So that was strike two. Finally, because I owned several companies, the dates I worked in those companies overlapped with each other, which again isn't well received. And so that was strike three for me. It became apparent that my way to even land an interview was to network. And because I was able to talk the language of business, I was able to impress during networking. I was able to differentiate myself, and I was able to eventually land interviews. Now, in future episodes, I'm going to tackle the art of networking and how to discover your superpowers. But the point is, there are a lot of very qualified people who are not even on the radar of companies because of this disconnect. Think about it. Mothers who have had children and took time off, they struggle to find work when they're ready to get back. Professionals who took a chance at being their own boss but are now returning back into the workforce, they're shunned away. People who took a hiatus and traveled the world for more experiences are now overlooked for someone who doesn't have a gap on their resume. Employers and companies are failing to realize the skill sets that these individuals are gaining during their time away is extremely beneficial and important. I get that there was a time when people used to work for only one or two companies their entire career. These days, the average number of years that someone works at a company is only 4 years. So if companies feel that this untapped talent somehow are red flags because they need to be retrained or they're prone to leaving that company, then that mentality needs to change, and it's limited because when you're considering the workforce today, it's always changing. And professionals are not necessarily spending their entire time with just one or two companies. There's a huge market of untapped talent that would benefit these companies. It's an opportunity that I've been looking at to leverage. I say let's try to broaden our qualification requirements so that companies continue to diversify with this unique talent rather than sticking to these old archaic processes, which can only put the company at a disadvantage.